Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge, day number 3. I hope you're all doing well. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and if you are tuning in live here on Behance this morning, afternoon, or evening, definitely let me know who you are and where you're tuning in from. Right now I'm streaming live from Los Angeles. Had to figure out some more YouTube issues this morning. But we're here, we're working, and it's day number 3. So we are going to jump straight into things. Here we go, here's my screen over here, and a big good morning to Raul, and Sam, and Jai, and Nakul, and Cars, Kita, Anna, Tim, Eleanor, and there's me, hi me, and everyone else. There's Greg in there, Agnes. Thank you everyone for joining me on day number 3 of the XD Daily Creative Challenge. Amy from Phoenix and Kristen from LA, awesome. All right, so here's the landing page. If you're brand new, head on over to behance.net/challenge/XD, and you'll be taken to this landing page where you have a big blue button at the top. Press that, you'll get notifications through Creative Cloud every morning when we do release new challenges at 8 o'clock. You can also get notifications through Discord, or you can just go straight to the landing page if you want. I got someone from Digital Grotto from UK, and we've got Netherlands, Spain, Albany, New York, another Spain, awesome, Sweden, Denmark, cool. All right, so, excuse me, brief overview. Every day you're gonna receive a challenge at 8 o'clock in the morning, Monday to Friday. You can join us in Discord. I'll show you that in just a moment. You can watch me at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, Monday to Friday, to get some inspiration for what you're gonna be designing that day. And then you're gonna share your work either on Discord, and again, I'll show you that in a second, or on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge, so I can hop in there, sort it by most recent, and just browse all of your amazing designs. Including, this is from Nikesh. Is that the Nikesh that's in the chat right now? Possibly. He or she put together this really nice looking case study, including many of the assets that are used in the templates. Also a little bit of information on what each day contains, and then a really nice, clean looking landing page. And I believe, yep, down here there is a little bit of a prototype. I don't think there's much to click through, but there is a little bit of an animation going on right here at the top where the logo comes in. I believe, if I'm thinking of the right one. Oh no, that's a different one. But this one does have click through. So you can click on the destination, you can click here to get to a calendar, and that was probably done using the calendar plugin in XD. You can also click on how many people you want, and you can, eventually you can probably also, click and increase that amount or decrease it or whatever you might be. So that was super cool. And then one more I want to show off is Kendall. And she put together this great looking landing page on Behance, really diving deep into what the case study is and what the problems are, what the solutions are. She's got a persona and a bio, which is super cool. This is really in-depth and potential employers love this stuff. And then she included the template information, some mock-ups of the landing page with the new Mac Pro, little cheese grater. Are any of you getting that cheese grater? I'm thinking about it, but I don't think I can justify it. Colors, this is really nice looking. I love this, Kendall. This is a great job. And then, yeah, really cool stuff. All right, so what do we have planned for today? Well, if I scroll down, we started on Monday, or I guess Tuesday, with a landing page refresh. We then went yesterday to an improved search experience. And now we're tackling the navigation. And the navigation's not a very sexy element of a landing page, but it's super necessary, and I'll show you why in a second. And you can download the template right there after this stream is done. You can watch the video, and you can also join us in Discord, and people are posting so many different amazing designs in Discord. I can just scroll and scroll and scroll, and this is just in the last hour or two. And there's mentors in here. We've got Peter Del Tondo and Tim as a mentor right now. We've also got Chris Cannon, Melody, Andrea Hawk, a lot of different awesome people in there. If you have questions or you want to introduce yourself, Discord's a great place. There's over, I think, 11,000 of you right now in there, which is crazy. But, thanks for hanging out. So, let's get into today. Let me hop over to Adobe XD right over here. And here is the template for day number 3. A lot of the same stuff, but we've added this challenge day number 3 right here. And it kind of gives you an idea of what problem you're trying to solve. Craigslist, we all know and love Craigslist. It's a great service, but there's a lot going on this page. There are so many different links, and it might serve its purpose for something like Craigslist, but for an application or a landing page like a travel service, you probably don't want it to look like this. At least I hope not. So you want to avoid too many links. You want to try to have things nice and organized, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing today. So let me go ahead and minimize this. And here is what we accomplished yesterday. Now I will point out, I did make a few changes. I did change the background image on this landing page. I did start out with this one, but I was looking at it last night and I figured maybe it's a little bit too dark. So I just found this other image on Adobe Stock, threw it in there. You can easily replace it, and it kind of brightens things up a little bit and has a nice little planet in the background, so it still conveys that message, but I think it's a little bit easier on the eyes. So, and Ariana's saying she loves the new image. Me too. I think it's a really nice looking image. I just wish I can paint that well. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be improving the navigation experience at the top. And we're also going to be exploring components a little bit, which is super necessary and important when you're dealing with something like a navigation experience. And I'll show you why in a second. So let me hop back over to Chrome just for a second. And if we take a look at some of the existing landing pages for travel out there's Costco, and there's this one, Hotwire, we've got Expedia, and we've got Travelocity. And you're probably noticing a few very similar themes going on. There's often two levels to navigation, right? This one at the top is kind of like the secondary, even though it's at the top, it's not as prominent. And then there's sort of the primary links where you might want to start clicking on, right? And many of them, Hotwire doesn't have it, Costco has it, and Travelocity has it. So there's kind of two levels, and we're going to kind of explore that today because there's a lot of links going on here. Maybe too many links in my opinion, but for something like that, you may want to surface that many links. So we're going to kind of show you how that's done today. So right here, we have just 3 links. We have sign in over here. We're actually going to make some changes to this. So all right, Greg is saying, I'm having a huge problem with components. Definitely throw questions in the chat. You can also hit me up on Twitter afterwards at Pinsky. I might be able to help out a little bit. Also, there's some videos on Let's XD talking about components if you want to dive into that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just move this down here just for now, just to get it out of the way. And I want to create those 2 levels. So level number 1, which is essentially the secondary level, is going to go on top. And I'm just using a rectangle. I'm just going to draw this out just like this. And I might want this one to be a little bit darker. So I'm going to just set the color to black, and I'm going to just drop the opacity a little bit, just a touch, so you can see through to the background, just so it's not super like pure black. There we go. Somewhere around 80% looks pretty good. So that's level 1. And then right underneath it, we might want level number 2. And this one we're going to get a bit fancy with. So I'll leave it, let's say right about there. All right, looks good. And then for this one, we actually are going to change it to black, but I'm actually going to get fancy and add a background blur. And those of you who know me, you know that I love background blurs. So I'm going to turn on background blur over here to the right. Boop, there we go. And I can adjust the properties now. So I can just make it, I can make it super blurred or just a little bit blurred. I can make it a bit darker. I can also turn up the transparency so it's nice and dark, but I might want to keep it somewhere right around there just so it's not blending too much with that primary or the secondary navigation at the top. And Richard's asking if you're going to make the site responsive. So I'm not focusing too much on that right now, but possibly next week we might explore some responsive design, maybe mobile design. You never know. We'll have to find out, right? So we got our 2 levels now. We've got the primary, the secondary at the top and the primary. The secondary at the top I'm going to use to house some links that may not be clicked on so often. We're going to have the logo. So we're going to grab this logo here. I'm going to pop it up here and paste it right there. If we do have time, we'll actually create a logo, but I'm not sure if we will have time. And then maybe over to the right, I'm just going to copy this, paste it outside of the navigation. There we go. And these are going to be the secondary links, so I probably don't want them bold. Let's go for possibly regular, and I'm going to decrease the size to, let's say, 28. Looks pretty good. Now we're going to have a few links. So this one over here is going to, let's say, we'll have support. Can't see my keyboard. Support, and we'll have my trips, and we'll also have account. Just like that. All right, make sure all these line up really nicely. You can select all 3 of them. Let me zoom in, and I can press the distribute horizontally button right there just to make sure they're all nice and lined up. I can also move them over to the right, just like this. Now I might also want on this secondary navigation some sort of an icon so you can switch languages. So over here in Finder, I do have an icon here. I just drag it in. It's way too big, but I'm gonna make it nice and small and position it over here to the right, making sure everything lines up really nicely. And that looks pretty good. All right, so we're getting somewhere. We've got our first navigation bar at the top. We now need the links down below. And Jude is asking, are you going to prototype this? We're probably not going to get into prototyping today, but we're focusing more on the design. And Greg is asking, is it possible to add elements to a component that was never in that component before? Yes, you can do that. You can definitely, if you add it to the master, it'll also add it to all the instances. And if you add it to the instance, then it'll only add it to that one. But you can definitely add and remove objects from components, masters, or instances. All right, so I'm going to put this, let me move this to the top. Put this up here. I do want to get rid of the sign-in button because we now have it over here under account. And I might want to add a few additional links to this. So I'm going to move, let's say we'll go into destinations. We'll have ships, good. Move packages over. We might want, let's say, ports. All right, which is very important when you're traveling through space. Packages is good. We might want civilization, so you can learn all about the different aliens and species that are out there in the world, or the universe, I should say, civilizations, and maybe we want rewards. Rewards, there we go. All right, again, I'm gonna select all of these in my layers panel, make sure they're all distributed horizontally. You know what, maybe I'll just wanna space them out a little bit more, just like that. Perfect, that looks pretty good, and make sure this is centered in the middle of my document. Perfect. All right, so things are looking a little bit more organized now. We've got our primary links right here, smack dab in the middle. We've got our secondary links at the top, including account, trips, and support. We also have a logo over to the left. And you know what? Let's go ahead and take a few seconds or a few minutes to design out an actual logo other than just Traveler, right? So I might want some sort of like a planet with a ring around it. Let me show you a few things. I'm gonna grab my ellipse tool, just draw one out just like this. Now, obviously for this, I might want just a border, right? So I'm gonna turn off the fill and set the border to a white and maybe increase it to, let's go for 4 right now. And then I might want just a little bit of a border. It's not a complete circle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play with the dash and gap. So I'm gonna increase the dash quite a bit and then increase or decrease, just mess around with the gap just until I have a nice border. Rotate it a touch, just like that, and set the caps to round. So I have a nice rounded corner right over there. And now I might want some sort of a ring going around it. So I'm gonna grab my ellipse one more time, draw out something like this across this logo. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna turn off the fill, set the border to around 4 and white, and then play around with the dash and gap. This one I might not want too long, so just something like that. Maybe I can flip it. Oh no, I can't do that because it's a border. That's not gonna work. There we go, that's what I want. Set the cap to round, and now we've got a little bit of a planet with a nice ring going around it, just like that. And now I can grab Traveler, maybe place it right about here. Maybe it's a little bit too bold. Let's go for regular. That looks good. Maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. Oops. A little bit smaller, just like that. Pop it in place, and now we have a logo. Make sure to group all this and call it Traveler, and make sure it's in the center. There we go. So now we have a cool little logo for our intergalactic travel website, and that was just done using a circle, 2 circles, a little bit of a border, and toying around with the gaps and the dashes. Super cool stuff. So now that we have our navigation set, the most important part of this is to actually turn all these elements into a component. And the reason we want to do that is so we can keep them up to date across our entire project. So I'm going to make sure to select all of these elements. I'm just going to drag out a selection around all of them. Now I don't want the background selected as well. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key, click on the background, and now I just have all the navigation elements included as a selection, right? Now, once that's done, I can either right click on any of them and then choose Make Component, or I can hop into my Assets panel, which is right down here, boop, and then press the plus button beside components right over there. Boop, there we go. I'm gonna name this navigation, and you're gonna notice that there's a little diamond at the top left. That lets you know that this is the master component. So any changes made to this specific master component will push to any instances where the properties were not overridden. Let me show you how that works in a moment. So let me go ahead and duplicate this artboard down over here. And let's just assume for a second that this is a completely different page. Let's assume that this is the page for ships, right? So let's go ahead and maybe select all of these ones. Oh, I have ships twice, don't I? Well, you know what? I have 2 artboards. I can make some changes. So this will be, I'm just going to delete one of the ships. I'm going to grab these, move them over a touch. This actually worked out quite nicely. Let me go back to my layers panel, make sure that this is centered. There we go. And you're going to notice when I scroll down here, it already updated on this instance because I was editing the master component. So I don't have to make changes multiple times. I didn't plan that, by the way. I don't have to make changes multiple times. I just have to update it once and it populates throughout everything. You can also add elements, and this is kind of what Greg was talking about earlier. Let's say you do have, 1, 2, 3, 1,700 different artboards throughout your document, and you might want to say, you know what, maybe I want a little bit of a hamburger menu. Even though this is a website landing page, you might want a hamburger menu on this navigation bar. So I'm going to hop in here, just grab my line tool, draw one out, make the border white, make it a little bit thicker, just like that. Indeed, it is a happy accident. Happy accidents are the best. Make this a bit smaller. Whoops. Grab my move tool. Whoops. There we go. There we go. And what are all your thoughts on hamburger menus? Do you like hamburger menus? Do you not like hamburger menus? Let me know. You know what? I might want a guide. So I'm going to grab a guide from over here on the left. Make sure my guides are enabled. Drag one out so it lines up with the flag at the top, just so I can make sure that this hamburger menu is lined up really nicely. Perfect. That looks good. All right. So I've added this, and you're noticing that this is, I'm going to group it, call this hamburger. There we go. Whatever. So I have this inside of the component, and it's very important you add them inside of the component. Otherwise, it's not going to distribute and populate throughout the rest of the document. So I've got that inside of the component, and you're going to notice that it's also added here, and it's also added on the one down here. So as long as you add it to the master component, it's going to add it everywhere. And Kashish is saying, suggestion, frosted glass GUI will look fire for a space theme. Indeed it will. And that's kind of why I added a little bit of a background blur on this navigation bar, because it just adds a little bit of a future look. So we've got this hamburger menu. We've added it basically to one master component, and it's added them to all of them. Now, how do, Cars is asking, can you make a component of a group? You certainly can. So if I wanted a nested component, I have the hamburger menu. I can just Command or Control K to turn that into a component. And now that group has been converted into a component. And in this case, the hamburger is the master component. But I'm going to leave it as a non-component for now, just to not complicate things. So we've got that. Now, how do overrides work, right? So let's say in this case, we wanted, let's say, the hamburger menu to change on this screen to, let's say, an X to illustrate what it would look like when you want to close it. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make changes to this one. I'm going to maybe collapse this, right? Select these two. Maybe I'll rotate them a little bit, just like that. I'll select this one. I'll rotate this one as well. And I'll just turn this into an X of sorts. It looks okay. It doesn't look great, but it kind of works. But you're noticing, if I go back up here, it did not change to this one. And that's because I edited an instance. So you can still make changes and you can still push overrides or make overrides to individual instances of your navigation bar, and it will not affect the master component. But let's say, for an example, you wanted to make some changes across all of the navigation bars, right? So maybe you wanted to change the color for whatever reason of these little guys, these hamburger patties, or whatever you want to call them. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the master component. And if you don't know where the master is, in here you can just right click and choose Edit Master Component. It's going to take you directly to your master component. And now I can make changes. So if I make changes to the color, Let's say I want to make it dark, just like this. Or if I wanted to just decrease the opacity a little bit, like that. What you're going to notice is it also pushes it to this one. So even though I overrode the rotation and the position, because I did not override the opacity on this instance, it did change it across everything. So there we go. So we've got our new navigation experience. We've got our logo at the top left, and any changes I make to this will push to all the other ones. We've got our new navigation links. We've got our secondary navigation at the top, including account, trips, and support. Our little flag to change languages. I think I need to learn some languages. And we've got our hamburger menu. You know what? I'm going to put that back to 100%. And things are looking pretty good. And of course, as you're designing this, you can add a little bit of a drop down. So if you want to just hover, or not hover yet, you can't hover yet, but hover is coming soon. But if you want to simulate a hover, you can do a tap trigger and have just, let's say you wanted very quickly, outside of the navigation, you can just have something like this, right? Have a little bit of a, maybe when ships is clicked on, just do that. Maybe you'll want it dark, decrease the opacity a touch. Just like this. You can put some information within it, and then you can turn this into an overlay. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to create one more artboard right over here very quickly. Paste it within it. There we go. And just like we did yesterday, we can turn this into a lovely overlay. So in prototype mode, I'm going to select ships, hop over here. This is going to be an overlay. I'm going to position exactly where I want it. Perfect. I'll have it none, and when someone clicks on ships, boop, whoops, I forgot to move it. There we go. Perfect. When someone clicks on ships, they get their lovely menu, and when they click off of it, it goes away. And hover definitely is coming soon, so you'll be able to do things like this with just a hover. So stay tuned for that. Look forward to seeing all your amazing designs that you'll be submitting in Discord and on Behance. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow at 11:30 for another XD Daily Challenge, day number 4. And then next week, we're going to tackle some other exciting stuff. So thanks a lot, everyone. Stick around, more XD goodness coming up in just a few minutes, and I'll see you all tomorrow.